That night, about 20 miles outside of Ogallala, I came around a gentle curve and slammed on my brakes. There, dead center in the middle of the two-lane highway, was an 18-wheeler. No lights, no hazard flashers, no nothing. Just a massive, dark silhouette blocking both lanes like it had been dropped there by a giant hand. I eased my rig to a stop about 50 yards back, my heart thumping in my chest. My headlights bathed the trailer in a harsh white glow, revealing a plain silver box with no company logo or markings. The cab was a conventional sleeper, maybe a Freightliner, but it was hard to tell in the dark. What struck me most was the stillness. No engine rumble, no exhaust puffing into the cold night air. It was like the truck was abandoned. I grabbed my flashlight and CB mic, hesitating for a second. Breaker, breaker, this is Big Red on 30 westbound, mile marker 142. Anybody got eyes on an 18-wheeler parked in the middle of the road? No driver in sight. Over. Static hissed back at me. I waited, but no one answered. That wasn't unusual out here. Cell service was spotty, and the CB range could be hit or miss, but it didn't make the situation any less eerie. I pulled on my jacket, tucked a tire thumper under my arm, and stepped out into the crisp October air. The gravel crunched under my boots as I approached the truck. My breath fogged in front of me, and the beam of my flashlight danced across the trailer's surface. "Hello? Anybody there?" I called out, my voice echoing into the darkness. No response. I circled the rig, checking for signs of a breakdown, leaking oil, a blown tire, anything. But the truck looked pristine, like it had rolled off the lot yesterday. When I got to the driver's side door, I noticed something odd. The window was down, but the cab was empty. No keys in the ignition, no logbook on the seat, no coffee cups or snack wrappers. It was clean, too clean. A trucker's cab is their home on the road. There's always something personal, a photo taped to the dash, a pair of fuzzy dice, a half-eaten bag of chips. This cab had nothing. It gave me the creeps. I climbed up on the running board and shined my flashlight inside, half expecting someone to pop up from the sleeper compartment. Nothing. The bunk was made, the curtains drawn tight. I leaned in, sniffing the air. No cigarette smoke, no stale food, no trace of human presence. Just a faint metallic tang like cold steel. I backed away, my skin prickling. Back at my rig, I tried the CB again. This is Big Red, westbound on 30. Got a ghost rig blocking the road. No driver, no signs of life. Anybody out there? This time, a faint voice crackled through the static. "Big Red, this is Night Owl, eastbound about 30 miles from you. Did you say a ghost rig?" I gave him the details, and he let out a low whistle. "Man, that's spooky. I ain't heard of no breakdowns out that way. You call the cops yet?" I hadn't, but it was a good idea. I grabbed my cell phone, praying for a signal. 2 bars, enough to get through. I dialed 911 and explained the situation to the dispatcher. She said a state trooper was about 40 minutes out and told me to stay put and keep my hazards on. Great. I wasn't thrilled about sitting in the middle of nowhere with a mystery truck, but I didn't have much choice. To pass the time, I walked back to the rig, keeping my flashlight trained on the ground. That's when I noticed the tracks. The gravel shoulder was soft from recent rain, and there were clear tire marks where the truck had pulled onto the highway. But there were no footprints. Not a single one. If the driver had gotten out, they would have left some trace, boots in the mud, crushed grass, something. It was like the truck had driven itself here and stopped. My mind started racing. I'd heard stories from other truckers about strange things on the road, phantom hitchhikers, lights in the sky, rigs that appeared and vanished. Old-timers called them ghost runs, trucks doomed to roam the highways after a wreck or a driver's untimely end. I'd always laughed those stories off. I believed in what I could see and touch, diesel, asphalt, and a good set of tires. But standing there, staring at that empty cab, I wasn't so sure anymore. I decided to check the trailer. Maybe there was a clue about what this truck was hauling, or where it came from. The rear doors were latched tight, no padlock. I hesitated, my hand on the handle. Opening someone else's trailer without permission was a bad idea, but this wasn't a normal situation. I took a deep breath and swung the door open. The trailer was empty. Not just empty, spotless. The floor gleamed like it had been polished, and the walls were free of the usual scuffs and dents you'd expect from years of loading and unloading. My flashlight beam bounced off the back wall, and for a split second, I thought I saw something move. I froze, my pulse hammering in my ears. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice cracking. Nothing but silence. I slammed the door shut and backed away, my hands shaking. That's when I heard it, a low, rhythmic thumping like a heartbeat. It was coming from the trailer. I told myself it was my imagination, that the stress was getting to me. But the sound grew louder, steady and deliberate. Thump, thump, thump. I stumbled back to my rig, climbed inside, and locked the doors. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, trying to calm my nerves. The thumping stopped as suddenly as it started, leaving only the sound of my own ragged breathing. I kept my eyes on the ghost rig, half expecting it to move. It didn't. The minutes dragged on, each one feeling like an hour. Finally, I saw headlights in the distance. The state trooper had arrived. The trooper, a guy named Officer Daniels, listened to my story with a skeptical frown. He checked the rig himself, confirming everything I'd told him. No driver, no paperwork, no signs of a breakdown. He ran the license plate, but it came back unregistered. "This is a new one," he muttered, scratching his head. "We'll get a tow out here, but it's gonna take a while. You're free to go, but be careful. Roads narrow up ahead." I didn't need to be told twice. I fired up my Peterbilt and eased around the ghost rig, giving it a wide berth. As I passed, I could have sworn I saw a shadow in the cab, just for a second. I didn't look back. I made it to Denver by dawn, dropped my load, and parked at a truck stop to catch a few hours of sleep. But I couldn't shake the image of that empty rig. Later that day, I called Night Owl on the CB to see if he'd heard anything. He said the tow crew found the truck right where I'd left it, but when they went to hook it up, the engine roared to life on its own. They swore it drove itself off the highway and into a field, where it stopped and wouldn't start again. The cops impounded it, but no one could figure out who it belonged to or how it got there. I still drive Highway 30 sometimes, but I avoid that stretch at night. Every now and then, I'll hear a trucker on the CB mention a rig that appears out of nowhere, blocking the road with no driver in sight. They call it the ghost rig of Ogallala. I don't know if it's real or just a story that's grown legs, but I know what I saw that night. And I know I'll never forget it. I hadn't slept in 36 hours, maybe more. The road does that to you when you're hauling freight cross-country, chasing deadlines tighter than a noose. My eyes burned, gritty like they'd been dusted with sand, and the coffee in my thermos had gone cold hours ago. I was running a load of machine parts from Omaha to Reno, a straight shot on I-80, but the miles were bleeding together. Wyoming's high desert stretched out endless under a moonless sky, the kind of dark that swallows your headlights and makes you feel like the only soul left alive. My rig, a beat-up old Peterbilt, groaned with every gear shift, and the CB radio had been silent for hours. Just me, the hum of the engine, and the occasional rattle of something loose in the cab. I'd pulled into a rest stop somewhere west of Rawlins, one of those lonely patches of asphalt with a single flickering streetlight and a cinder-block bathroom that smelled like despair. It was 3 a.m., and the air was sharp, cold enough to bite through my flannel. I needed to stretch my legs, shake off the fog creeping into my brain. The logbook said I was pushing the hours of service rules, but who was going to check out here? Nobody. Not a cop, not a DOT inspector, not even another trucker. Just me and the night. I climbed out of the cab, my boots crunching on the gravel, and lit a cigarette. The nicotine hit my bloodstream like a weak promise of staying awake. I paced a bit, checking the straps on the flatbed, making sure the load was secure. That's when I saw her. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light, or maybe my sleep-deprived brain playing games. She was standing just beyond the edge of the lot, where the asphalt gave way to dirt and sagebrush. An old lady, hunched over, wearing a tattered shawl that looked like it belonged in a museum. Her face was half hidden in shadow, but I could see her eyes, bright, too bright, like they were catching light that wasn't there. "Hey, you okay?" I called out, my voice sounding louder than I meant in the dead quiet. She didn't move, didn't answer. Just stood there, staring. I took a drag on my cigarette, trying to shake the unease crawling up my spine. Probably just a local, I told myself. Some old-timer who wandered too far from home. But something about her didn't sit right. Nobody walks out here at this hour, miles from any town in the middle of nowhere. I flicked the cigarette away and climbed back into the cab, locking the door behind me. The engine roared to life, and I pulled back onto the highway, the rest stop fading in my rear view. But as I glanced in the side mirror, there she was again, standing on the shoulder, same spot, same hunched posture, watching me. My stomach twisted. I hadn't seen her move, hadn't heard footsteps or anything. She was just there. I floored it, the speedometer creeping past 70, then 80. The Peterbilt's engine screamed in protest, but I didn't care. I just wanted distance. The next hour was a blur. My hands gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles ached, and I kept checking the mirrors, half expecting to see her standing in the middle of the road. Nothing. Just darkness, and the occasional reflective sign flashing by. I tried the CB, switching channels, hoping for a voice, any voice, to break the silence. Static. I turned it off and cranked the radio instead, some AM station preaching fire and brimstone. It didn't help. By the time I hit the Utah state line, my eyelids were heavy, drooping like they were made of lead. I knew I should have pulled over, caught a few hours in the sleeper berth, but the schedule was tight, and I'd already burned too much time at that rest stop. Besides, every time I thought about stopping, I pictured her, those eyes, that shawl, that unnatural stillness. I popped a couple of caffeine pills and washed them down with the dregs of the cold coffee. Keep moving, I told myself. Just keep moving. Around 5 a.m., the sky started to lighten, a thin gray line on the horizon. I was somewhere east of Salt Lake City, the road cutting through salt flats that shimmered like a fever dream. That's when the CB crackled to life. "Breaker, breaker, anybody out there?" a voice said, gravelly and tired. I grabbed the mic, relief washing over me. "Human contact, finally." "This is Big Red, westbound on 80, I said. "Who's this?" "Night Owl eastbound," the voice replied. "You see anything weird out there tonight, Big Red?" My mouth went dry. "Weird how?" A pause, then a low chuckle. "Like an old lady, maybe. Standing where she shouldn't be." I nearly dropped the mic. My heart was pounding now, the caffeine pills doing nothing to calm it. "Yeah," I said, my voice hoarse. "Back near Rollins. Rest stop." She was just standing there. Another pause, longer this time. "You saw her too, huh?" "Been hearing stories for years." "Old lady behind the truck. Always at night, always alone. Some say she's a ghost, others say worse." "Worse?" I asked, not sure I wanted the answer. "Some say she's not dead. Not alive either. Just something else. Hitches a ride with truckers who don't make it to their next stop." I laughed, but it came out more like a cough. "Bullshit. Just a tired brain and bad lighting." "Maybe," Night Owl said. "But you keep your eyes on the road, Big Red. And don't stop till you see daylight." The CB went quiet, and I didn't try to raise him again. My hands were shaking now, and it wasn't just the caffeine. I kept driving, the salt flats giving way to low hills, the dawn creeping up slow and cold. I told myself it was nothing. Just a story. Just exhaustion. But when I glanced in the mirror again, I swore I saw something move in the sleeper berth behind me. A flicker, like a shadow shifting where it shouldn't. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The road was my lifeline now, the only thing keeping me grounded. I turned the radio up louder, some country song about lost love and whiskey, and focused on the white lines flashing by. The sun was fully up by the time I hit Wendover, the Nevada border just ahead. I pulled into a truck stop, one of those big ones with a diner and a shower, packed with rigs and drivers. Safety in numbers, I thought. I parked, killed the engine, and sat there for a minute, listening to the ticks and groans of the cooling motor. I didn't want to look in the sleeper berth, but I had to. I grabbed a flashlight from the glove box and turned, shining it into the back. Nothing. Just my duffel bag, a couple of empty water bottles, and a crumpled blanket. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. The diner was warm, smelled like bacon and burnt coffee. I ordered a plate of eggs and hash browns, trying to shake the night off. The waitress, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, refilled my mug and asked where I was headed. "Reno," I said, forcing a smile. She nodded, then leaned in close, her voice low. "You look like you've seen something out there," she said. "The road's got stories, don't it?" I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. "Yeah," I said finally. "Stories." She didn't press, just patted my hand, and moved on to the next table. I ate fast, paid in cash, and headed back to the rig. The lot was busy now, trucks idling, drivers shouting to each other. Normal. Safe. But as I climbed into the cab, I felt it again, that prickling on the back of my neck like someone was watching. I checked the mirrors, the berth, even under the damn seats. Nothing. The rest of the run to Reno was uneventful. Daylight helped, and so did the traffic. I delivered the load on time, picked up a backhaul of electronics, headed to Denver, and tried to put the old lady out of my mind. But at night, when I was alone on the road again, it came back. Not just her face, but the stories. Night Owl's voice on the CB. The waitress's knowing look. The shadow in the berth. I don't run I-80 anymore. Took a job doing local deliveries, short hauls around Denver. No more long nights, no more empty highways. But sometimes, when I'm lying awake at 3 a.m., I swear I hear the CB crackle, even though it's not plugged in. And sometimes, in the corner of my eye, I catch a glimpse of a tattered shawl just out of sight. I don't look. I don't want to know. The road's got stories, like the waitress said, and some of them follow you home. My name's Mark, by the way. I've got a clean record, no tickets, no accidents. I'm not the guy who makes stuff up or gets spooked by shadows. But that night, something wasn't right. I was maybe 20 miles outside Bend when I saw it. A shape on the shoulder, just past the reach of my headlights. At first, I thought it was a deer, maybe a bear, but it didn't move like anything alive. It was tall, too tall, and it seemed to flicker like a bad TV signal. Not solid, not quite there. I slowed down, heart thumping, and radioed my dispatcher, Karen. Hey, I'm pulling over. Saw something on the side of the road. Just checking it out. She told me to be careful, her voice crackling through the static. That was the last time I spoke to her. I pulled the rig onto the gravel shoulder, hazards on, engine idling. The air was cool, heavy with pine and damp earth. I grabbed my flashlight, slipped my phone into my pocket, and stepped out. My boots crunched on the gravel, but the forest was dead silent. No crickets, no wind, nothing. I shone the light toward where I'd seen the shape, but the beam just sank into the dark, like the forest was swallowing it. Then I heard it. A low hum, not mechanical, not animal. It was like the air itself was vibrating, deep and wrong. My skin prickled, and I felt this urge to run, but I couldn't. My legs wouldn't move. That's when I saw it again, closer now, just beyond the tree line. It wasn't a person, wasn't an animal. It was tall, maybe 8 feet, with limbs that bent wrong, like they were put together backward. Its head, if you could call it that, was just a smudge like someone erased it. But it was watching me. I swear it was. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen, my flashlight shaking in my hand. The hum got louder, and the thing moved, not walked, but slid toward me. I dropped the flashlight and bolted back to the cab, my heart hammering so hard I thought it'd burst. I yanked the door open, climbed in, and slammed it shut, locking it like that would do anything. The hum was inside my head now, rattling my teeth. I floored the gas, not thinking, not caring that I was veering off the highway and onto a dirt road I didn't even know was there. The rig wasn't built for those narrow forest trails. Branches scraped the sides, and the trailer groaned as I took turns too sharp, the wheels skidding on loose dirt. I was driving blind, panic clawing at my brain. I kept glancing in the mirrors, expecting to see that thing chasing me, but there was nothing. Just darkness and my own headlights bouncing off the trees. I don't know how long I drove like that, the engine screaming, my hands white-knuckling the wheel. I just knew I had to get away. At some point, I stopped. I don't remember deciding to. The rig was parked in a clearing deep in the forest, engine still running, hazards blinking. My phone was on the floor, my boots too, though I don't remember taking them off. My shirt was gone, and my chest was slick with sweat. I was shaking, mumbling to myself, they're still back there. I don't know who they were, but I felt it, like a truth I couldn't shake. Something was out there, and it wasn't done with me. I stepped out of the cab, barefoot, the ground cold and sharp under my feet. The hum was gone, but the silence was worse. It was like the forest was holding its breath. I walked, not knowing where I was going, just moving, like something was pulling me. I remember a deer trail, narrow and winding, and the trees closing in overhead. My mind was foggy, like I was half asleep, but I kept walking, muttering, "They're still back there." I don't know how long I wandered. Hours, maybe. The sun came up, weak and gray through the fog, but I didn't stop. I didn't feel hungry or tired, just empty, like something had scooped out part of me. I don't remember much after that, just flashes, pine needles under my feet, the smell of damp moss, and that feeling, that awful certainty, that I wasn't alone. They found my rig 2 days later, deep in the forest, miles from any truck-legal route. The engine was still running, trailer sealed, hazards on. The driver's door was open, my boots and phone on the floor, like I'd just stepped out and vanished. Search parties combed the area for weeks. They found nothing, no tracks, no signs of a struggle, just my rig sitting there like a ghost. But the locals saw things. A hiker said he saw me that next morning, walking a deer trail, shirtless, muttering. A couple driving home late swore they saw my semi tearing through the forest, weaving like the driver was drunk, nearly tipping on a turn. They said the engine sounded wrong, like it was screaming. And then there were the trail cameras. Weeks later, they picked up something moving through the fog, my rig's headlights flickering, the engine howling like it was alive. Whatever was driving it, it wasn't me. I don't know how I got out of that forest. I woke up in a hospital in Bend, 3 weeks after that night, with no memory of how I got there. The doctors said I was dehydrated, hypothermic, but otherwise fine. My feet were cut up, my nails broken, like I'd been walking for days. They asked me what happened, but I couldn't answer. I still can't. I haven't driven since. I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see that thing, that smudge where a face should be. I hear that hum, feel that pull like it's still out there waiting. I checked the trail camera footage myself, against everyone's advice. It's grainy, but it's there, my rig moving through the fog, headlights flickering. And in the cab, just for a second, you can see it. Not me. Something else. Something sitting in my seat, hands on the wheel, driving. I don't know what I saw that night. I don't know what it wanted, or why it let me go. But I know it's still out there, in the Deschutes National Forest, waiting for someone else to pull over. So if you're driving those roads at night and see something on the shoulder, something that doesn't look right, keep going. Don't stop. Don't look back. Because whatever's out there, it's not done. The coffee in my thermos had gone cold, and the hum of the engine was lulling me into dangerous territory. I knew better than to keep driving half asleep, so when I spotted a small pull-off near exit 62, just past the Emlenton Service Plaza, I decided to catch a quick nap. The spot wasn't a proper rest area, just a wide shoulder with a couple of other rigs parked, their trailers dark and silent. I figured I'd park behind them, kill the engine, and grab 45 minutes of shut-eye before hitting the road again. I backed my Freightliner into the shadows, the gravel crunching under the tires. The 2 trailers ahead of me were old, beat-up reefers, probably hauling frozen goods. No cabs attached, which wasn't unusual. Drivers sometimes dropped their loads and bobtail to a nearby motel. The air was still, the only sound the faint whine of distant traffic and the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. I locked the doors, pulled the curtains across the cab, and leaned my seat back. My bat, a Louisville Slugger I kept for just in case, was propped against the passenger seat. Never had to use it, but it was a comfort, like an old friend who didn't talk much. Sleep came fast, heavy, dreamless. I don't know how long I was out, maybe 20 minutes, when it started. Bam, bam, bam. The sound jolted me awake, my heart slamming against my ribs. It was coming from the passenger side door, 3 heavy blows, like someone was pounding with a fist or something heavier. The whole cab shook, the kind of force that could dent metal. I sat up, blinking in the dark, my breath fogging in the cold. I waited, listening, my hand already on the bat. Silence. No voices, no footsteps, just the faint hum of the highway. I leaned over, peeled back the curtain, and peered out the passenger window. Nothing but darkness and the faint outline of the trailers ahead. Maybe it was a prank, I thought, some local kids screwing with truckers. Or maybe a branch had fallen on the cab. I settled back, trying to convince myself it was nothing, but my pulse wouldn't slow down. Then it came again. Bam, bam, bam. This time, it was the driver's side, my side. The blows were even harder, rattling the door like it might come off its hinges. I grabbed the bat and swung my legs out of the bunk, my boots hitting the floor. "Who's out there?" I shouted, my voice hoarse from sleep. No answer. I flicked on the cab's interior light, half expecting to see some shadow move outside. Nothing. I don't scare easy. 22 years on the road will beat the fear out of you. But something about this felt wrong. The air felt thick, like it was pressing down on me. I unlocked the driver's door, bat in hand, and stepped out into the cold. The gravel crunched under my boots as I scanned the area. The trailers were still there, silent and dark. No movement, no people, no animals. Just the wind, colder now, cutting through my jacket. I circled the rig, checking every inch. The doors were fine, no dents, no marks. I even looked under the chassis, thinking maybe some drunk was hiding. Nothing. I stood there for a moment, the bat heavy in my hand, my breath puffing out in clouds. The highway was quiet, no headlights in either direction. It was just me, the rig, and those 2 trailers. I climbed back into the cab, locked the doors, and sat there, gripping the bat. I told myself it was over, that I'd imagined the force of the blows. Maybe it was just the wind, or the trailers shifting on their jacks. I was about to lean back when it happened again. Bam, bam, Bam. Bam. This time, it was both doors at once, a rapid-fire pounding that made the whole truck shake like it was caught in an earthquake. I yelled, more out of shock than anything, and scrambled to the passenger side, ripping the curtain open. Nothing. I spun to the driver's side, nothing. The pounding stopped as suddenly as it started, leaving my ears ringing in the silence. That was it. I wasn't sticking around to find out what was going on. I jammed the key into the ignition, the engine roaring to life. The headlights cut through the dark, illuminating the trailers ahead. For a split second, I thought I saw something, a shadow maybe darting between the trailers, but it was gone before I could be sure. I didn't care. I threw the rig into gear, the tires spinning on the gravel as I peeled out. As I pulled onto I-80, I saw lights flicker on in the cabs of the other rigs parked nearby. 2 more trucks I hadn't noticed before, tucked further down the shoulder. Their drivers must have been woken by my engine. I didn't stop to check. I kept my foot on the gas, the bat still in my lap, my eyes flicking to the mirrors every few seconds. The road stretched out ahead, empty and endless. I didn't stop until I hit the Flying J in Brookville, 30 miles down the road. The lot was lit up like Christmas, full of rigs and the hum of idling engines. I parked, killed the lights, and sat there, my hands shaking. I kept replaying it in my head, the pounding, the empty lot, the shadow I wasn't sure I'd seen. I grabbed my phone and called my buddy Ray, another driver who'd been running these roads longer than me. Ray, you ever hear of anything weird out by Clarion? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He was quiet for a second, then said, You mean the pull-off near exit 62? My stomach dropped. Yeah, that's the one. He didn't laugh, didn't call me crazy. He just said, Stay away from that spot, man. Drivers talk about it sometimes. They call it the knocker. Nobody knows what it is. Some say it's a ghost, some say it's something else. But it's been going on for years. Banging on doors, shaking rigs, then nothing. Nobody's ever seen who, or what, does it. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the Flying J, sipping burnt coffee, watching the lot like a hawk. When the sun came up, I hit the road again, delivered my load in Newark, and swore I'd never stop at that pull-off again. A few weeks later, I was at a diner in Stroudsburg when I overheard 2 drivers talking about the same spot. One of them, an old-timer with a beard like steel wool, said he'd stopped there back in '98 and heard the same thing. Pounding on his doors, no one there. He said he found scratches on his rig the next morning, like claw marks, but he couldn't explain them. The other driver just nodded, like it was no surprise. I don't know what's out there on I-80, and I don't want to know. I've heard the stories, ghosts of drivers who wrecked, spirits tied to the land, or something older, something that doesn't like us parking on its turf. All I know is I'm sticking to proper rest stops from now on. And if you're ever driving through Clarion in the dead of night, and you see that pull-off near exit 62, keep going. Whatever's out there, it's not worth finding out. The road was a black ribbon stretching through the Arizona desert, the kind of empty that makes you feel like the last person on Earth. I'd been hauling a load of auto parts from Phoenix to Albuquerque, my rig humming along Interstate 40. It was late, past midnight, and my eyes were starting to burn. I'd been driving for hours, the monotony of the highway broken only by the occasional jackrabbit darting across the asphalt. I needed a break. Not a full stop, just a quick nap to reset my brain before pushing on to Grants, New Mexico. I spotted one of those tiny roadside pullouts just past Holbrook. No lights, no facilities, just a patch of gravel surrounded by scraggly desert brush. It wasn't a truck stop, but it'd do for a 90-minute power nap. I eased my rig off the highway, the tires crunching on the loose gravel as I rolled to a stop. I shut off the engine but left the parking lights on, their faint amber glow barely cutting through the darkness. I climbed into the sleeper berth, set my phone alarm for 90 minutes, and pulled the curtain closed. The desert was dead quiet, no wind, no crickets, just the kind of silence that feels heavy. I must have knocked out fast, because the next thing I knew, something was pulling me out of sleep. It wasn't the alarm. It was a sound, faint at first, like a fingertip brushing metal. Tap, tap, tap. 3 slow, deliberate taps on the driver's side door. I froze, my heart slamming against my ribs. The sleeper was dark, the only light a faint red glow from my phone charging on the dash. I checked the time, 2:17 a.m. I'd been out for maybe 45 minutes. The tapping came again, slower this time, like someone was testing if I'd respond. I held my breath, straining to hear anything else, a voice, footsteps, anything. Nothing. Just that heavy desert silence again. I eased myself up, careful not to make the springs in the berth creak. My pulse was racing, but I told myself it was probably nothing. Maybe a piece of brush caught in the wind, scraping the door. Or some bored kid messing around, though that seemed unlikely out here in the middle of nowhere. I reached for the curtain separating the sleeper from the cab, and pulled it back just enough to peek out. The windshield showed nothing but pitch-black desert, the parking lights casting a weak glow that barely reached the edge of the gravel. No flashlight beams, no silhouettes, just darkness swallowing everything beyond the rig. Then I heard it, gravel crunching. Not from the driver's side, but the passenger side. Slow, deliberate steps, like someone was circling the truck. My stomach twisted. I grabbed the heavy maglite I kept wedged between the seats, its weight reassuring in my hand. I flicked it on and yanked the passenger side curtain open, shining the beam through the window. The light cut through the dark, illuminating the gravel and the scruffy mesquite bushes beyond. Nothing. No one. Just empty desert staring back at me. I sat there for a second, the flashlight beam trembling slightly as my adrenaline spiked. I told myself I was overreacting. Maybe it was an animal, a coyote or something, sniffing around. But then I glanced at the driver's side door, and my blood ran cold. The lock was unlatched. Not fully open, just popped, like someone had tried the handle and left it slightly ajar. I never leave it like that. I'm obsessive about locking up when I stop, especially in a place this isolated. I always double-check. Always. I lunged across the cab, slammed the door shut, and locked it, my hands shaking. I checked the passenger side, still locked, thank God. I swung the flashlight beam out the driver's window again, half expecting to see a face pressed against the glass. Nothing. Just the same empty desert. I climbed back into the driver's seat, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I started the engine, the roar of the diesel shattering the silence. I didn't care about my nap anymore. I just wanted out of there. As I pulled back onto the highway, the headlights swept across the pullout, and for a split second, I thought I saw something, a shadow maybe at the edge of the gravel, where the light didn't quite reach. I didn't stop to find out. I kept my foot on the gas, the adrenaline keeping me wide awake for the next 4 hours straight to Grant's. By the time I rolled into the truck stop in Grant's, the sun was just starting to creep over the horizon, painting the sky a bruised purple. I parked near the diner, where the lot was already buzzing with other drivers fueling up or grabbing breakfast. I sat in the cab for a while, trying to shake the feeling that something was still off. My hands were still shaky as I poured coffee from my thermos. I kept replaying the night in my head, the tapping, the crunching gravel, that unlatched door. It didn't add up. I'd locked the truck. I knew I had. Inside the diner, I grabbed a booth and ordered eggs and hash browns, more to calm my nerves than because I was hungry. The place was warm, loud with the clatter of plates and the low hum of conversation. A couple of other drivers were at the counter, swapping stories about bad weather and worse dispatchers. I didn't feel like talking, but I caught the eye of an older guy in a flannel shirt and a faded ball cap, his rig parked next to mine. He nodded, and I nodded back, the unspoken code of the road. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, sliding into the booth across from me without asking. His name was Carl, he said, and he'd been driving for 30 years. I didn't feel like spilling my guts, but something about his easy manner made me tell him about the pullout near Holbrook. The tapping, the gravel, the door. His face changed when I mentioned the door. He leaned forward, his voice low. "You ain't the first," he said. "Been hearing stories like that for a while now. Someone's been messing with rigs at night, especially lone drivers in those off-highway spots. They don't steal nothing, far as I know. Just mess with you. Try to catch you sleeping." I stared at him, my coffee mug halfway to my mouth. "You serious?" He nodded. "Heard it from a guy in Gallup last month. Same deal, tapping on his door middle of the night, out in the boonies. He thought it was kids at first, but he found footprints around his rig. Not kid-sized either. He took off, same as you." I didn't know what to say. The idea of someone out there, in the middle of the desert, targeting truckers for no apparent reason, it was unsettling. Carl said the cops didn't do much about it. Too hard to patrol every pullout along I-40, and no one had been hurt, just spooked. "Best thing you can do," he said, "is stick to the big stops. Plenty of lights, plenty of people. Ain't worth the risk." I nodded, but my mind was still back at that pullout, replaying the sound of the gravel crunching. I finished my breakfast, paid the bill, and headed back to my rig. The daylight made it easier to convince myself it was nothing, just a weird night, a trick of the mind. But I couldn't shake the image of that unlatched door. I checked every inch of the cab before I climbed in, half expecting to find something out of place. It was clean. I don't stop near Holbrook anymore. Ever. I stick to the big truck stops now, the ones with floodlights and 24-hour diners. I keep my doors locked tight, and I double-check them every time I park. I don't know who, or what, was out there that night. Maybe it was just someone playing a sick prank, like Carl said. Maybe it was something else. All I know is I'm not taking any chances. The road's lonely enough without inviting trouble.